You're about to spend $15,000 to repair water damage to your basement. Big project, big headache. Everything's going to get ripped out and put back. But there's a silver lining to this. If you just spend an extra $200 to put down a nice floor, you're going to get to the dream basement you've always wanted, and it's going to be nice and finished. Does that sound good to you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I like where your head's at. Follow along as I scale this example up. I believe that because of the massive scale of the energy crisis, it is one of the best opportunities to improve conditions of human suffering on the earth if we thoughtfully go about the destruction of old business models, we craft energy efficiency policy and enact it, and we harvest renewable energy. Let's talk about the problem and how we got here. The fact that growth in population and consumption remains positive and fossil fuels remain finite means that there's going to be a time where we come to a fundamental crossroads where we have to readjust how we get our energy and how we maintain the status quo. It's going to take a mobilization of vast amounts of capital and talent, probably like we haven't seen in generations. When I look at this example of how much resources we're going to put into the change, I have to beg the question, is the status quo worth all this effort? Or is there something better? I think there is. We should use this occasion to recognize that social issues can be repaired alongside energy crisis issues. Let's talk first about the surface solutions to meet the need, and then we'll go back and we'll tweak them to see how we can come with a better result. First, the destruction of old business models. Every year on major market indexes, the average lifespan of companies shortens. Insight, which is a marketing research company, discovered that in the year 1964, the average tenure of a company was 33 years. When they project out their numbers to the year 2027, they have found that that lifespan shrinks to just 12 years. We can watch on the sidelines and see the market dynamics change, or we can recognize today that there are fossil fuel-free investment portfolios available to us through our mutual funds or other investment vehicles that we could go today and insist on generators of clean energy and people who don't pollute. When I say things like vote with your dollar, maybe we should just be voting with a lot of our dollars. Next, we'll talk about energy efficiency policies. If you only look at the energy crisis through the lens of a supply problem, you're missing out on a huge lever that can be pulled in terms of policy and forcing businesses to use solutions that are already on the shelf. Let's talk about that. The International Energy Agency developed a model saying that the Earth could sustain a 20% population increase by the year 2040 while doubling GDP, but only consuming marginally increased electricity demand. Now, you might think with numbers like that they were depending on some crazy technological solution that we don't even have in mind yet, but no. They're referring to things like the electrification of transport systems and things so simple as upgrading old inefficient machinery to the current state of the art. What we lack, however, are elected officials that have the knowledge or the courage to enact or develop legislation that will bring us to this point. If you want to see that kind of change, there's no voting analogy here, it's just vote with your vote. Now, as thrilling as it would be to continue talking about GDP, the S&P 500, market disruptors, and politicians, we finally get around to renewable energy. We built this dynamo of growth on a finite fossil fuel foundation. We can't continue at this rate. Just one example of an extended energy resource that goes past the human timescale is solar energy. Solar energy is a leader due to its stubborn habit of showing up every day and radiating electromagnetic waves all over the earth. It's a ubiquitous resource, meaning that everybody can collect it if they are so inclined to different varying degrees of frequency and efficiency. But this means that there are many ways to gather it, and then there are many ways that can be tailored and decentralized, therefore democratized, where you have smaller groups of stakeholders deciding what's appropriate for their community's generation needs and what they can stand to have generating in their own backyard, so to speak. Now, in terms of the scope of our energy crisis, it's going to be a very heavy lift. It's probably one of the biggest challenges to face our generation. We have to think, do we do all this just to maintain the institutions and conditions that brought us to this juncture? So let's take a look at our 3 solutions and see how we can tweak them to come up with even better outcomes. First, we had the socially responsible investing. Pretty soon it's going to be pretty easy to find portfolios that only generate clean green electricity or don't pollute. Maybe a further question we could ask ourselves at that point are things like the ratio between executive compensation to their lowest line level employee. Number 2, as we vet political candidates for office, who we expect by this point to be all about energy efficiency, we could look about why they are enacting this policy, whether it's pragmatism or does it nest into a greater idea about civil responsibility. Number 3, as solar energy equipment becomes more affordable, people are going to be making retail decisions about that equipment. It's going to be a flat commodity where prices are pretty similar, so we need to ask more developed questions about how it got to us. We need to ask about the environmental impacts and the human impacts of mining precious metals and materials that go into them, and the sustainability of those in themselves. So I say to you again, precisely because of the massive nature of the energy crisis facing us, it is the best opportunity for the conditions of humanity to improve here on Earth if we thoughtfully go about the destruction of business models, conducting and crafting energy efficiency policies, and harnessing renewable energy. So, I ask you, as the waves of change inevitably come crashing down on our shores, can you ask the questions that will take that enormous momentum to create real and lasting change in our world?
Yes.
Thank you.